go through what's your warm-up routine for the team.
We like to get to the meet pretty early, about an hour and a half before the meet. I usually just make sure that they're moving. You know, a lot of times we get to their morning meets, and so I like to get them moving around. The late afternoon meet, when we were up in New York this weekend, we went for a run that morning. We stayed in a hotel. We got out for a little shakeout run and I had breakfast. But usually morning meets, we'll get there, we'll go for a walk. About an hour ahead of time, we'll make sure we take care of the bathrooms, and then we'll go for 15, 20 minutes, depending on the meet. We'll stretch for a little while, and then we usually do is we get close, about 20 minutes from the meet, we'll do like a little bit of a threshold run for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then come back on our spikes and head to the line. One of the things we try to emphasize with kids is to stay warm. Always don't be too derogatory, but you really. You go to the line, you see these people walking around 15, 20 minutes before the race with just their singlet on. I always tell the kids, you don't have to worry about those kids. You try to at least act the part. Maybe you'll fool some people, even if you aren't that good. You try to look like a runner. Just stay warm. Just keep your sweats on. We try to stay warm as long as we can before we go to the line.
Dan? I have my kids warm up totally individually, whatever they need. I had one kid last year ran a 16-18 at Homedale. He needed an hour before the race to start his warm-up. I had another kid ran a 16-13 at Homedale last year. About 40 minutes he'd start his warm-up. I had him warm up individually. What happened was one of my first years coaching, I had the whole team. I was a big team. Everyone warm up as a team, warm up as a team. And I see my 7th kid, who's about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes slower than my top kid. He ran his race on the warm-up. From there, I said, you know what, just warm up individually, whatever you take. I had my top kid at South Jersey Open. It was about 40 minutes, and I see him sitting there. I said, when are you going to start your warm-up? He goes, about 5 minutes to 30. If that works for him, it works for him. But so I let the kids figure out what works for them best. Steve?
We actually started doing something different this year, and I really like the way it's working for us. I heard Paul Souza at the Running Works Coaches Clinic last year speak on active warm-up, and one of the things he said that really stuck with me, he said that the evidence, there are studies that show that when you stretch, while it will elongate the muscle, it will temporarily weaken the muscle as well for up to an hour after the stretch. And he said that's why we never do static stretching before we, workouts or races. And and it just made sense to me. It says, I thought about that, and I thought that does seem to make sense. You stretch the muscle out, it elongates it, but in some way it made, I kind of could see where it would make it weaker. And I also didn't like the idea that we go warm up and then we sit around and stretch, and the guys are not the best stretchers in the world anyway. A lot of times they're not really doing much in the way of stretching. So all that warm-up they did is just cooling off. So what we do now, we run about a mile, then we come back and we've got about 15 to 20 minutes of drills that we go through. That it's active stuff where they're moving the entire time. We do some, I guess you would call it ballistic stretching in there with it towards the end of it, but it's never holding the stretch for more than 2 seconds. They're walking stretches, like after they've done all their drills. And the drills are a combination of different skips and A skips, B skips, karaoke, things like that, to kind of get the flexibility into the joint areas. And then the stretches are like, for instance, one of them is they just walk and reach down and touch their toe for 2 seconds, and then walk and reach down and touch the other toe, and they do that for it's about a 30-meter thing that we do up and back. And it takes us about 15 to 20 minutes to do that, and then they go out for another short run after that, and then striders. And I think it's done a couple of things. One, I think it actually gets us warmed up better, and I think two, it focuses, but it's better at getting us focused. There's not that time where you're just sitting around daydreaming while you're stretching. You're actually doing something that's more of a routine. So I think it helps us that way as well. I think it might help with injury prevention.
Do you guys do anything different at Homedale with the start at Homedale? Do you warm up differently?
No, we don't. Although I've heard people talk about how The only thing I would say at Homedale is you probably want to try to time your warm-up as close to the start of the race as possible, because you really need to be warmed up when that race starts. If you've got too much time between your warm-up and the start of the race, then you're starting to warm up again as you're running, and you're running uphill in the beginning of Homedale. I mean, Homedale, those of you that run it all the time know this, the thing that makes Homedale hard is not the ball. It is not the ball. What makes Homedale hard is that first half mile. That's like the hardest first half mile of any course you're going to run, probably. So if you're not ready for that, then you're in trouble. So timing the warm-up, I think you want to be as close to the start of the race by the time you're in your warm-up as possible.
Mike, your